Hi everybody, welcome back to 100% Mark. So I hope you're all staying safe out there in this current lockdown, in this pandemic, and taking the right precautions. As you might have guessed by the title of this video, this is 5 reasons why Newcastle United's takeover makes sense. Now, in no particular order, I'm going to give you my reasons to why the takeover makes sense. So first off, the rest of the teams in football will have less money than they did before. Now, that is one of the main reasons behind why PIF and Amanda Staveley and the Reuben brothers are taking over Newcastle, or trying to take over Newcastle now, is because this is the perfect time with this current pandemic going on. It means that players that cost 200 million before now currently cost about half of that, so that is a really good investment time to come in, buy a club, and be able to buy big name signings for half the price. And then when the pandemic is over, you'll have world-class players that have cost you half of what they would have cost you. So, for instance, a Harry Kane, let's say, he cost 300 million, then, he would only cost you about 100 million with this pandemic going on, which is absolutely amazing. Profit-wise, that is amazing. Obviously, it's not about profit, though. They're wanting to build a world-class squad. So if you think about it in that aspect, you can go out there and you can spend 50 to 60 million, on some really world-class players, that would have cost you 2 times or 3 times that amount, and that is an amazing investment, an amazing way to build your team really quickly. Moving on to the next reason, PIF could be scrapped or disabled for a while. Now, this one kind of links up to the first one in the fact that, the PIF will mean that we'll be able to spend a lot more money. Now, it has been rumoured that Newcastle can spend up to about 150 million, but there is also a rule in the rule books stating that any new owners coming in can spend more than their income if they can prove a way to bring that income into the club that they have spent. So, for instance, Newcastle could spend 300 million in the transfer window as long as they can prove that they can bring revenue streams back into the club for that 300 million. So that is a great thing, and that lines up perfectly with the fact that other teams in the world of football at this moment in time, of course, will be having less money than Newcastle United, with Newcastle being the richest club in the world when the PIF come in. So that will mean that Newcastle will be able to go out there and buy some pretty good name signings on the cheap and still have a lot of money left to buy even more, and as for the PIF as well, that doesn't count towards your training ground, your stadium, none of that stuff counts towards PIF, so they can redevelop the training ground, as much as they like, and that won't affect PIF. They can also that won't affect FFP, and they can also expand the stadium as well, and that won't affect FFP as well. Moving on to option 3, in the reason number 3, and that is that world football will have a new challenger. So you've got your PSGs, your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, your Manchester Cities, and your Liverpools, and now there is going to be Newcastle United going back to where we once were in the 90s when we were rocking it with Manchester United in the 90s when Keegan was taking on Alex Ferguson for the Premier League title. We'll remember it, the Entertainers versus the Red Devils, and what an entertaining time it was for Newcastle United fans, and that will be coming back under the PIF and Amanda Staveley and the Reuben brothers, and that is a great reason to why this takeover must go through, because we have had 13 years of absolute torture under Mike Ashley. moving on to reason number 4, of course, in no particular order, but it is the end of Mike Ashley and owners like Mike Ashley. Now, of course, it has been rumoured that Mike Ashley will be spending his last Sunday as the owner of Newcastle United, as this coming week on Monday, tomorrow, will be the week that Newcastle United get taken over by the PIF and Amanda Staveley and the Reuben brothers. Hopefully that is the case. Fingers crossed it is, because that would be an absolutely amazing announcement to get. That we are finally going to be taken over and Mike Ashley will no longer be the owner of our club. As for the owners like Mike Ashley, that means, that the Premier League in football in a whole, the football governing body will look to make the fit and proper test and the owners and directors test more strict, stopping people like Mike Ashley, like the Oystons, like the Venkis, from coming in, buying clubs and just taking the money away and putting it back into stuff that they want to buy. Like Mike Ashley has done for the last 13 years, taking away the TV money, what should be for the club, should be improving the club, and he's putting it back into his retail empire of Sports Direct and the Frasers Group, and that's something that the governing body of football don't want to happen, because that money is for football, that money is to build the club up, and to build clubs up and build the reputation of football up and make football a massive, massive sport. Not that it isn't a massive sport to begin with, but this makes it an even bigger sport. And of course, on that matter, that means that another reason for why the takeover makes sense is that we're talking about PIF, we're talking about Saudi Arabia, we're talking about the richest country in the world. They've got the most money at $1.8 trillion. That's about, 1.3 trillion pounds. Correct us if I'm wrong down in the comments below on that one. But $1.8 trillion is a lot of money, and that money can be spent on all sorts of different stuff, so why wouldn't the Premier League want a guy with that kind of money coming into the league, especially in this current pandemic where the Premier League is going to be facing some very difficult times. Clubs down in the Championship are going to be finding it hard. League One clubs are going to find it hard. League Two clubs, everybody below the Premier League is going to find it hard. Even Premier League clubs as well, like Liverpool, Man City, clubs like that, they're going to find it hard. Don't think they're not, because they really are going to find it hard. With this pandemic, there's already a Premier League club out there, hasn't been mentioned who it is, but they are hemorrhaging about £9 million a day, which is a lot of money to be hemorrhaging from your club, so this is a main reason behind why this guy should come in, because he's going to bring a lot of money to the Premier League, and of course, my team, Newcastle United, and our team, Newcastle United. On to the last reason why, and it's the rebuild of the city and the area, just like the Man City owners did. They came in and they built up the area, they put brand new pitches in parks so the local kids could go and play and kick around there, and that makes it so much more, because that means that then you got your local kids coming through the ranks, some really great players coming through with your ranks, and that's something, Newcastle don't have. We've got Matty Longstaff, Sean Longstaff, but that's about where it ends, to be honest, because we haven't had many really great players come through the ranks. We need massive, massive players coming through the ranks. And, Alan Shearer was a youth kid at Newcastle until, of course, Kevin Keegan disbanded that, and he ended up having to go off and play at Southampton, so that's one of the reasons why we need to look at bringing in the youngsters, building the area for the youngsters, so that they can train as well. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below on these reasons to why Newcastle United's takeover makes sense. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Away the lads.